Now we're going to take you live to Dubai. Al Jazeera's Zein Basravi is there. There have been missile interceptions here in Doha. Zein, early this morning. You're hearing explosions there, or have done in the last few minutes.
That is correct. An air raid alarm went off on all our phones just a few minutes ago, and we began hearing that low rumble of outgoing defensive fire confronting these missile and drone attacks coming in from Iran. And it's been going on since the early hours of this morning, since about 3 or 4 a.m., again at 6 a.m. And really here in the UAE, which has been the largest hit, the bulk of Iranian retaliation has happened on the UAE. If for instance, 3,000 projectiles have been fired, more than half, well over half, have hit targets in the UAE, and today is no different. In fact, just to read to you a statement put out by the Australian Defence Forces just a few hours ago, or just in the last hour, an Iranian airstrike impacted an area at the Al Minhad Air Base here in the UAE, where Australian Defence Forces have a long-standing presence. No personnel were injured in the incident, and all personnel deployed to the Middle East are safe and accounted for. The strike resulted in minor damage to an accommodation and medical facility on the Australian section of the base. So Australian forces confirming that impact. Overnight, multiple explosions seen in the skies over Dubai, the glow of defensive fire, which has become familiar not just in Dubai, not just in cities in the UAE, but across the GCC region since this war began, once again in these skies. The UAE confirming that air defenses were at work, and it wasn't just air defenses, wasn't just intercepting missiles. They also had jets in the sky intercepting drones and what they call loitering munitions, those debris fall that we've seen in multiple areas in the GCC, which have turned deadly in Abu Dhabi just in the last 2 days. At least 2 people killed from debris fall in recent days. The UAE saying it is currently responding to incoming missile and drone threats. Similarly in Qatar, there was active defensive fire this morning, as you said, and overnight in the last 10 hours on Tuesday, throughout the course of Tuesday, 9 ballistic missiles and a number of drones were successfully intercepted by the Qatari Defense Forces. Saudi Arabia, just in the last few minutes, another drone alert, a suspected strike targeting the embassy area in Riyadh. The Saudi Ministry of Defense saying at least 2 drones were intercepted over the eastern part of the country this morning. Kuwait had air defenses working this morning. Bahrain had sirens going off. But again, with all of this activity, the UAE remains the hardest hit as part of Iran's retaliation.
On that note, Dubai had a record, 2 million visitors in January this year, with the Eid holiday and Easter fast approaching. Tourists are giving it a very wide berth. What's the mood there in the city?
Well, it certainly is far more quiet, far more sullen than it has been in the past. This time of year, the streets should be packed. It is a festive time of year, but the traffic is notably far lower than it usually is. There isn't that festive mood at the different hotels and different hotspots in the city. If you speak to real estate agents, which I have done, they'll tell you that the market is quiet at the moment, far quieter than it would have been. There are still sales happening, but the housing market is far less active than you would normally see in Dubai, really any time of year. And having said that, there have been actual impacts. It's a war. It's obviously going to have economic knock-on effects. There's the practical problem of being smack dab in the middle of an exchange of fire, of Iran's retaliation. There's a sense of insecurity. But when you speak to Emiratis and residents who live here, they point to the history for what is going to come in the future. Conflict in this region is nothing new. In the 70s and 80s, you had interventionism there. You had the GCC blockade, which hurt everyone's economy. You had the global financial crisis. And what people here are saying is that this carefully curated city, this image, may seem fragile, but the fact of the matter is it is far more robust. It has been through crisis in the past, and these cities, this region is bigger than a single crisis. It's bigger than a single war, and it can heal from this conflict as well. But what needs to happen before any of that can start is that both sides need to stop shooting at each other.
Zein, Gulf nations are meeting in Riyadh later today to discuss the security challenges that they're facing. What are you hearing on that?
Well, there's been a serious ratcheting up of the political diplomacy that's been going on between Gulf Arab neighbors, because they're all really, this is a unifying moment. And unfortunately, it isn't a positive one. They're coming together at a time when they're all coming under attack. They're all caught between allies in the United States on one side, and really allies turned frenemies on the Iranian side. So what we're seeing is Gulf Arab states coming together to try to see how they can use diplomatic pressure, political pressure, to try to convince both sides that they need to stop shooting at each other. And what we are likely to see in Riyadh is how they can bring diplomacy to bear to convince them to do that. But even as Iran continues to shoot at Arab neighbors, one thing, when you speak to people here, that they agree on with Iran is that this is a war of the US and Israel's making, and it was brought to their doorstep. And going forward, that is probably going to play a major role in how countries in the Arab world, or at least people who live here, assess their relationship with the United States. And it is likely to be one that is far less trusting of the United States as a long-term political partner, a long-term strategic partner. They are helping provide defensive weapons. They are helping the Arab states as strategic and military allies. But at the same time, they're also bringing this violent conflict to the door of cities and countries that are acutely focused primarily on maintaining security stability to be able to maintain a secure economy. And what people here have been telling me is that it is clear that in terms of Iran and its strategic interests, and the United States and its propensity for carrying out conflict, what they are feeling like is that the Arab priorities are seen as expendable.
Zein Basravi reporting live from Dubai. Zein, many thanks.